Kind of discuss the EDC4 wrap-up we've got Jason Dietz from FHWA. I think he just got off his airplane, so hopefully he's got a minute to take a breath there. But
thanks for allowing me to come here and speak. I appreciate it. For those that don't know me, I'm Jason Dietz with the Federal Highway Administration. Been with Federal Highway for 23 years. And prior to that, I graduated with a master's degree in pavement materials in University of Nevada, Reno. So I'm a West Coast guy, so don't hold that against me. Okay, no smiles, all right. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about everyday counts, when and where and how, and kind of giving you an update. And then I'm going to give you my little flavor of some of the things I've seen going around the country and share that with you. So for those that have seen this photo before, and I'm sure, how many people have seen this photo before? Well, bear with me, I'm going to help the others. Here's a pavement preservation project that I wanted to share with you. This is Park Avenue, September 20th, 2016. As you can see here, there's a roadway, and right in the middle of the roadway divvy ups a parcel of a city on one side and a city on the other side. So let's look at the city on the left-hand side. This was in Connecticut. I'm not going to say who it was or anything, but in 2004 they did a 2-inch mill and fill. And look at Fairfield on the right-hand side. They did a 2-inch mill and fill, but they decided in 2010 they were going to do some crack sealing and microsurfacing. On the left-hand side, guess what they decided they wanted to do? Somebody says nothing, but it was a little bit more than that. They decided they were going to purchase a pothole patch machine. And hey, that's great, suits its purpose, but look what we got here. Look what's happened over the years. So this is kind of a slide that we often share. It's kind of a good resemblance of what preservation can do, and we'll move forward. A little bit about everyday counts. EDC is a state-based model that identifies and rapidly deploys a proven and yet underutilized innovation, and that's pavement preservation. We've all been there. We've all seen presentations in the early, late 90s. Either they worked well or they didn't, and that's where we stand. So where does that include when and where? Well, when is at that right time, and where is at the right road. And those are the components that most agencies are having problems with. Everybody's heard that motto, keep good roads in good condition, right? Yeah. But what about the right road, the right time, on the right project, and those things? That's the challenge, right? Those are the things that we have to deal with. And lastly, for the how component, is to promote quality construction and material practices. Because as we have seen over the years, poor construction, poor materials, or a lot of things that we're seeing there were problems. So within the when and where, our first objective was going out and outreach to the DOTs and look and see what their current practices are when it comes to pavement preservation, when and where. And as you can see, those in the red are the states that we've seen out west, and we did this last April. Those in the green, the southeast, and the blue in the northeast. We got a lot of good conversations, and we're in the process of finalizing a report, hopefully soon, if we can get through public affairs at our headquarters office, and it's been really challenging. Next, I want to talk about the objectives. Well, one of the objectives was the first thing, we needed to create a synthesis of practices incorporating pavement preservation into strategy selection. We all know on a state side when we're going to do rehabilitations. We have kind of an idea, 10, 15 years. But do we have any kind of matrices or any kind of decision trees that tell us when pavement preservation treatments are going to go down for states? We don't, and that's one of the things that we're working on. Furthermore, we're looking at steps for selection and evaluation of the programs. And James is going to talk a little bit about that here later today, and he's going to talk about a report that we were generated. Next, we're also trying to collaborate some tools to support and analyze long-term effectiveness. And as lastly, at the end of this, we're going to have 4 workshops that we're going to go and talk about some of the things that we noticed, we found, and want to share that information. And lastly, I really want to focus on this for the when and where. We really wanted to look at the benefits of using a whole life approach for a project treatment selection. We want to look at that gamut of 20, 30 years, whatever that may be. Are we going to put chip seals down every 6 to 12 years? What are we going to do there? And that's the focus. Furthermore, for FHWA training, I've gone out over the last year and a half. We provided 26 workshops around the country. And there you can see where the states have we gone to. We included 855 participants for this workshop. Here, coming up in the next month, we're going to be in Delaware and Illinois. And I see one of my friends here, Chuck, is right up where he's going to help me do the Delaware. So great interaction with the DOTs as well as local agencies to promote the integration of pavement management into these preservation treatments. Furthermore, last Wednesday, we had a webinar. And for those that weren't able to make it, there's a site where you can go to. It was downloaded. It was recorded. We had over 150 people participate, and we talked a little bit about the everyday counts, pavement preservation, when and where. Furthermore, on the how objectives as well, one of the first things that we did is we worked with University of Iowa and Nevada Reno on some best practices guides. And as you can see in the blue, they're all shown there. As well as we're planning on, currently there were 4 workshops that were done last year doing the pavement preservation partnerships, if you can remember. And next we're going into looking at peer exchanges. And currently we have 9 that are scheduled this year, and we have already completed 4. Lastly, for those that don't remember, we had some checklist series back 10 years ago that we developed. Well, for those millennials, we're trying to get up to the speed of using cell phones, and while we're in the process of updating those and making it capable on the video on your app to use, so stay tuned for that. Furthermore, here's the how peer exchanges in colored, and then, sorry if it's kind of hard, those in the white and slash marks, those are the ones that are going to be coming up mainly for the Northwest, Southwest, as well as Georgia area for those that are here. We got that coming up in April. Now I want to talk a little bit about the how, some of the things that I've noticed around the country as I've been doing it. Pre-construction planning does not get addressed enough. You know, things that need to be done, looking at the right job, the right people, the right materials, and the right equipment play very much a key for successful of a project. As well as candidate selection. Oftentimes we select these projects maybe a year, maybe 2 years out, but times it comes to construction, guess what? Things have changed. We need to see what we can do to maybe have to do a rehabilitation or modify what our original selection process is. Furthermore, candidate selection, we talk about that. We need to confirm the appropriate specifications. We need to look at what's out there and what we're doing and modify it accordingly to our contractors, to the materials that we have for the particular project as well. And lastly, we want to have some kind of detailed traffic control program to kind of mudge it all together to make sure that our public is satisfied when we're out there doing these jobs. Furthermore, the right people. And from the right people, they need some kind of inspector resources. And here are just a few. The pocket guide's the first one. And then it's the ISSA guide manual. Who've seen the guide manual? All right, a few. Hopefully a few more will go out and check it. Great information, very useful, very practical. Furthermore, the right materials. Mix design and job mix formula by an AASHTO Resources accredited laboratory. We do that on asphalt. Why are we not doing that on our preservation treatments? Same thing. As well as approved sources, our aggregates and materials. They have to come from there. And lastly, procedures to verify conformance. In addition, we need to have some kind of design of what our project's going to be at. And here's just an example of what you should work with your supplier and your contractor for your particular job. So for the right equipment, we need to make sure it's clean and leak-free, as well as we're going to want to use continuous pavers for those roadways or the project on the interstate systems. There are smaller units that can be done for particular roadways. We want to make sure there's enough support trucks. They're one backed up right behind the other, so there's no delay where it's going to cause some issues. And lastly, we want to make sure they're properly calibrated. And where can we go to further information on proper calibration? Well, we go back to the ISSA guide. And here at the end, here's an example on the far right-hand side where it goes and gives a person an understanding of how to go about doing that calibration. Next, for the web-based training, for those probably know this already, there is an ISSA, Federal Highway, through Michigan State, where folks can take training free of charge, as well as currently we're wrapping up the NHI for 134207 for rigid pavements. And with this web-based program, you can see the variety of things that we're going to cover when it comes to pavement preservation for concrete, partial depth, full depth, diamond grinding and grooving, dowel bar, retrofit and cross-stitching, and joint sealing. Very thorough, very informative. As well as, I just took one just to give you an idea. This is an hour-and-a-half web-based training a person can take on his leisure. For this partial depth, it'll give a little bit of an introduction. It'll look at the types of partial depth repairs, one that an agency could use, as well as planning and preparing for a PDR in the field, identifying, marking repair boundaries, options of a concrete removal, preparing a repair area, selecting, handling, and repair materials. And through this process, we also show ventilations, equipments that are used for safety and fines and things like that. So we know that's an issue requirement currently going on, so we want to address that. Lastly, installing compressible joint inserts, placing repair materials, and lastly, one of my favorites, quality control and opening to traffic. Lastly, here are some EDC resources where you can go to. The first one really talks about the innovations, things that we've done over the last year and a half, some states' experiences, what they have learned, what's worked well. Also, the second one for Federal Aid Essentials, this was a video that we did over the last year to help local agencies as well as state agencies to give them an understanding for preservation, what is important. And it's only like 8 or 9 minutes, not very long, but it kind of gets to the point of why preservation is needed to prolong our life of our pavements. And lastly, the Federal Highway Pavement Preservation Library. I'd like to point out the one on the bottom is the life cycle planning, where agencies are going to for further information with the new TAMPs and et cetera. I reference that for folks to take a look at that. Lastly, we don't have issues with ADA requirements, do we? I got a little chuckles, not too many. But I like to share this website for further information. It has questions and answers where people can go to. It's very helpful, very useful. And if you think anything else comes up, feel free to come in.
Are most of these training videos, are they free or do you have to pay for them?
They're all free. One for the asphalt. The hardest is just getting registered. But once you get registered, you can take a little bit, come back in the next couple days, finish some more. Great scores. For the NHI ones, they're all free. But give us about another month or so because we're currently we're in the process of Adobe Connect software issues, and we're trying to wrap that up. And as soon as that's done, that'll be readily available for folks to take as well. And it's free.
Jason, is EDC4 wrapping up? I thought I'd heard that funding was done, or is there any plans for extending it? Can you give some insight on that?
EDC4 is completed. However, we're also in the process of, engage in some of our activities that are continuing on. So I know a lot of the peer exchanges for the HOW, they got some coming up in April and May. We also have some reports that are going to be generated. So it'll probably go until about middle of this year. All right, enjoy your afternoon.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.